If you have a desire to become a better version of your current self, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories surrounding fitness and self-improvement which you can apply to your life today. So for those of you that want to take control of your life, to learn, to grow, to become that which you desire most, I am your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can create a routine that you can be proud of. A routine that pushes you forward every day, every week, every month, and inevitably pushes you closer to becoming the type of person that you want to be. Because with our routine, it's just a sequence of actions. That's all a routine is. And the actions that we put in a daily, and a weekly, and on a monthly basis will ultimately result in where we end up, what we achieve, and what happens to us, what situation we end up in. So our routine is such a core component of that. It's, to me, when I got involved in self-improvement and over the past 6 years, I found routine to be like the vocal point. It's one of the core parts of self-improvement, because whatever you want, it comes from your routine. It really does. So it's been something I've focused on a lot. It's what I focus on with my clients, whether obviously they're trying to lose weight, they're trying to lose their body composition, alter their life. And that comes from your routine. As I said, it dictates where we end up in life. And there's a quote from someone who I admire a lot, an author, a leadership expert called John C. Maxwell. And he says that you'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret to your success is found in your daily routine. And that just completely backs up what I was talking about there. It's like what you do on a daily basis will result in the type of person that you become. That's what's going to dictate where you end up in life from there. So it's, as I said, really important part of self-improvement. And if you are somebody who feels like the routine that you're in right now isn't necessarily pushing you closer to the type of person that you want to be, this episode is going to be a great one for you. Now, the very first thing with routines is, for me, realising what we want, because I think so many people can look at routines. We've all tried different routines. We've all tried to bring in new habits, but too many of us look at routines and think, right, well, I'm going to bring this into my routine. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. And while it's great to try different things, what we first need to realise is what we actually want. Like, what are you striving for? What is it that your routine needs to give you? What do you want from your routine? Because my routine, to me, is great. I love it. It pushes me closer to being the type of person I want to be. But for other people, it would be useless. It would be pointless. It has to align with where you want to go. Because, as we said, what you're doing on a daily basis will result in the type of person you're going to become. So you need to really carefully pick the routine. You can't just steal somebody else's routine and copy what they do. It needs to be original to you. It needs to be in line with what you want from there. So one of the ways that I do this with myself, I do it with clients, is start to envision the type of things that I want, particularly from like a traits perspective. Like, what do I want to embody? Do I want to be more disciplined? Do I want to be more consistent? Then what do I need to do on a daily basis to do that? And once you know that, once you know roughly where you want to be, what type of person, you don't need to know what car you want, what job you want. You don't need to know all these things. These things are bigger questions. You just need to know the type of person you want to be. Do you want to be more consistent? Then we need to build a routine around that. Do you want to be somebody who works out regularly? Then we need to build a routine around that. Do you want to look a certain way, feel a certain way? Well, what's going to help you do that? Okay, because if we don't do this thing first, if we don't realise what we truly want, you're going to just take from others loads of things and you're going to wonder why it isn't working. You're going to wonder, why isn't this routine making me feel better? Why isn't it pushing me closer to where I want to be? I don't feel right. Nothing feels good. I keep quitting. It's because it doesn't align with what you actually truly want. So finding out what we want is going to be one of the first things that we want with a routine. We need to realise where we're going in order to build a routine to push forward with that. Because when we realise what we want, the routine then comes easy for that. Because it becomes easy to think, right, well, to get here, I need to fill my routine with these habits. And then we push on forward from there, because the goal, the vision, the thing that you want, it's a great thing to have. That's what you want at the end of the road, but it's the routine that will actually push you forward. Okay, so that's one of the first things that I've done. It's one of the first things I do with my clients is realize what we want. from a vision perspective. What do we want to achieve? And then you build your routine around that. We're not just picking and choosing things at random in a directionless kind of matter from there. Now, when it comes to choosing our routine, it has now been made much easier because we know roughly what we want. When we know what we want, we can then dictate, we can then decide how do we get there. And one of the things that I've done with this is that I looked at people that have inspired me or people in positions where I want to be, and I look at what they've done. So if it's somebody who is in good shape, now maybe not absolutely everything they did was optimal, but what did they do? Chances are they controlled their calorie intake. Chances are they were training regularly. So then that gives you an idea of what needs to be part of your routine. So it can be great to gain inspiration from people that have already done what you're looking to do. And something that I do more so now is I use my own vision to do that. So my vision of my ideal self, I've worked in this for a very long time, so I have a very clear idea of the type of person I want to become. So I can think of, right, that guy, when I'm in that position, what will I have had to have done to get to that position? Like, what is the habits I will have had to done? What is the habits I will have had to have avoided to get into that position? And then I can fill my routine with those habits from there. And once you have those habits, you can then set standards for them. You can set targets for them. So it's like, right, I know I need to weight train. I know I need to read. I know I need to get up early, whatever it happens to be. Then you can say, okay, well, I'm going to do this X amount of times per week. You can get specific. You can set targets. Because by setting targets, you have something you can track. You have something you can pursue, which is really important. Because everybody sets goals where they want to end up, but it's the targets, it's the steps that are going to get you there. So that's what you need in order to push forward, is those steps for your habits. You need those standards, those targets for each of your habits. So that's how I do it. I get my habits, I break them down into standards. What I do is use weekly non-negotiables. So if I have to weight train, and I know that's a key part of my routine, I know I need to weight train at least 4 times per week. So when it comes to my weeks, I look at my non-negotiable, weight train 4 times in a week, and I just plan it in. I plan it in there because I've set that standard. I've set that target, so I know what I need to aim for. And that just given my routine so much structure from there. And it's given me something that at the end of the week, I can look back and be proud on, because I've set standards and I've achieved them. And that's really how you get a routine that you can be proud of. You get a routine that pushes you forward to who you want to be. You set standards to the habits that will get you there. And then at the end of the week, when you look back, you tick them off, you start to feel proud of it. And that's what I aim for every single week. And it gives a lot of purpose going into that. And it makes it clear what your priorities are. Because if you've got too many things with a routine, too many priorities, too many desires, I want this, I want that, it's going to be too clouded. It's going to be inconsistent. You're going to fail with lots of things. Whereas when we have one clear thing that we need to achieve, these clear targets, it makes it much easier to go through and pursue from there. Now, another thing that is going to come up time and time again with your routines is hurdles. Things that are going to make it difficult to get to where you want to be. Now, one of the things that I ask myself is, what would my ideal self what would my ideal self have to have avoided to get to where they are now? So what you're doing there is forward planning. So what blockers might come up? What things might make it harder for you to be consistent with your routine? So for me, I had to look at habits that made me inconsistent. Like, was it spending too much time on social media? Was it going out with certain people? Was it going out too often? What were the habits that I was doing that was taking me out of that? And there were blockers, there were hurdles. They make it harder for you to get to where you want to be. That's what a hurdle does. It slows you down. So we need to think of these things and we need to remove them from here. And there's a really, really good book that I'm reading just now. It's by someone called Cameron Hanes. His book's called Endure. And in it he says, it's one thing to find your true passion in life, but what is your poison? And what he means by that is we can have all this pretty vision, we can have all the things we want, we can be like, right, this is where I want to be. But what is it that's stopping you from getting there? That's what I've had to do a lot within the past few years. It's like, right, I'm definitely progressing, but I could be progressing faster. What is limiting me from maybe reaching my potential, getting there at a quicker pace? What are those habits? And once you start to unravel them, it's a tough thing to unravel, because you'll ultimately need to look at yourself and probably find some weaknesses in there and say, right, well, I'm giving into this. These pleasures I'm giving into or whatever, they're distracting me. They're taking me off course. We need to find those things and we need to do our best to either remove them or at least reduce them from there. Because if we don't, again, you can have all the pretty visions, you can have all the goals, but you're not going to get them because the hurdles will stop you from getting there. So that's a really, really important thing going forward. Something you can do because, as I said, a lot of people don't have the guts to do that part. It's admitting what is holding them back. What are the bad habits? Took me a good bit of time to do that, but once you do that, it will open up that road to growth and improvement with your routine from there. One way I like to explain it to my clients is with their routine, right? They have this routine, they have their non-negotiables, they have things that they know they need to do to become the type of person that they want to be. Now imagine you're on that road. At the end of that road is that person, right? It's going to take a long time for you to get there, but you're walking up that road. What we have is different habits and different actions, hurdles that we spoke about that will take you either off course. So a hurdle will appear, you'll have to move off that road and go in a different direction from there. We want to avoid those because those hurdles, bad habits, addictions, whatever they may be, they take you out of alignment. You think if you've been in line with your goals, you're going up that road, you're going straight forward, you're storming ahead. When those hurdles come, you need to take the other way. Either that or you jump right over them. You move that out the way and you overcome that. You overcome those hurdles. That's your only options from there. We remove them, we overcome them, we push forward. But think of it in that way. If you're on your way to your goals, you're doing the things you need to do, you are in alignment with that. What are the potential things that can take you out of alignment? And once you get those things, once you think of those things, you can work on removing them, or again, as I said, at least reducing them so you can push on forward from there. Now, an essential part for my routine, for all my clients' routines, comes from preparation, planning and reviewing weeks. It's something that, honestly, probably one of the most profound habits that I brought in, particularly towards consistency. If I've been one thing over the past 6 years, it's been consistent. And that has come from my ability to plan and review my weeks. Because again, you can have all the goals, the visions, the steps and everything like that, but what's keeping you there? We spoke about that road, the hurdles, that's something. What else is going to keep you on that road towards your ideal self, towards becoming the type of person you want to be? Okay, we need to consistently review our weeks and look back at them and think, right, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? And we need to plan them as well, because with structure comes consistency. We need structure going forward from there, because if you don't have consistency, you're not going to get anywhere. We already know that's a simple thing going forward from there. Now, I mentioned in the beginning about chopping and changing parts of your routine and taking from others and things like that. That can be fine. Over the past 6 years, I've tried so many different things, different self-improvement routines, habits, morning routines, evening routines, everything there and in between. And what I've found is obviously things that work and things that don't work. And the only way that I've been able to sieve out the things that do work and remove the things that don't work is through planning and reviewing my weeks. So at the end of my week, I look back on it and I say, right, well, what slowed me down this week? What blocked me? What stopped me pushing forward? I do that every single week. I have a Notion document and one of those questions is, what was one of my blockers this week? What could I have avoided? What should I remove from my weeks? And that allows me every week to make sure that there's no bad habits creeping into my lifestyle, into my routine that will stop me pushing forward. So by reviewing your week, it can be a really powerful thing for not only testing things, but also find out like what works, what doesn't work. And then you can decide what to push forward with, what habits to go forward with from there. Because as my dad always says to me, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And I do my preparation on a Sunday. I tend to find it's where I have a good amount of time at night. I'll plan my week ahead. I've got the same structure I go through every single week to plan out my weeks, and that creates my routine for the week. And when I go through that routine, as I said to you earlier, I feel so proud at the end of it. I feel great. That is the pursuit of constant improvement to me. It's every day is pursuing improvement with different aspects of my life, which all comes from my routine. Because imagine that. Imagine how powerful that would feel. At the end of your day, sitting in your bed and thinking, I done good today. I'd done the things I said I was going to do. And again, it comes from your routine. That's the whole point in this. And that's what planning your weeks can do. That's what reviewing your weeks can do. And if I were you, I would make that essential, that you plan your weeks ahead and you review them at the end of the week as well. Now, a few extra kind of tips, because as I mentioned, consistency has been a big thing for me. So for consistency, to be adherable to your routine, to actually stick to that routine, a routine that you can be proud of, there's a few things that I've done on a regular basis. One of them has been prepping the night before. Now, I plan my weeks in advance. Some people plan their weeks, some people plan their days, some people even plan their months, right? But if you plan your weeks, I still have to do little things the night before. And I find a great deal of power in planning the night before. Because a big mistake people make when it comes to routines is wait until the morning. See, in the morning, nobody wakes up motivated, inspired, fueled and fired up and ready to go. Especially if you've had a bad night's sleep, maybe you're busy, maybe you're stressed out. Nobody wakes up absolutely raring to go. So what often happens is people wake up, they're tired, they're fatigued, and if they've not done stuff, you're just adding blockers into your day. Whereas if you plan the night before, you're giving yourself the best chance to just steamroll straight into your day. As soon as you start, you can just move things out the way, there's no blockers. And then when you start to pick up energy later on in that day, you're already going, there's been no blockers there. So it's one of the biggest things I've done has been to prep the night before. That could be something as simple as writing a few to-do things to do, like a to-do list in the morning, laying out your clothes the night before. I pack my bag for work. Because I lay out my breakfast, what I'm going to be having. If I'm going to weigh my breakfast, I make sure the scale's out. It takes me 10 minutes at night to prep these things. And by doing that, it makes my mornings easier because the mornings tend to be harder when it comes to your routine. So make them as easy as you possibly can. Prep the night before. Because people always talk about morning routines. Oh, do this to kickstart your day and have an amazing day. I'm sure some people love their morning routines. To me, I'm very much, I get up, I get my clothes on, I'm either going to the gym or I'm going to work. That's what I'm doing. I'll do maybe a quick bit of my reading. I will do my journaling. That takes me 5 minutes. I'm out that door. I'm not doing a million different things. I'm doing a couple of things. I'm out that door. Because to me, the hard work comes from the night before. So put a lot of emphasis into your nighttime routine, not just your morning routine, because it will make the next day a ton easier going forward. And with consistency, it's like most people lack preparation. It's not necessarily the lack of knowledge, it's preparation. If you prepare, as that quote said earlier, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. But if you do prepare, you're giving yourself the best chance of succeeding in your day and your weeks going forward from there. Now, to wrap up today's episode, I want to go over a few takeaways. I'll leave you with a quote, and then hopefully from today's episode, you can take different things, put them into your routine, and start to build out that routine that you can be truly proud of, that routine that helps you with your fitness, with your self-improvement. Now, the very first thing that we spoke about was realising what you want, because if you don't know what you want, how are you going to build a routine around that? It doesn't need to be, as I said, the type of missus you want, the job you want, the car you want, the house you want, just an idea of what you want to strive for. What do you want to become better at? What traits do you want to develop and embody? Pick those and it makes it much easier to build a routine around them. Another thing would be reverse engineering off the back of that. So once you have an idea of that thing that you want, you think, right, what would it take in order to get there? Look at other people. What have they done to get where you want to be? Envision where you would be in that end position and think, right, what would it take to get to that position? A very powerful thing that you can start doing immediately. Another thing, reducing hurdles in your routine. That can come from prepping the night before. That can come at looking at your bad habits, things that take you out of alignment. Look at those things and deal with them, or else you'll find that you'll constantly be falling out of routine. And the last one, planning and reviewing your weeks. As I said, incredibly impactful for me. If you need a little bit of help with that, drop me a DM on Instagram. I actually have 5 questions that I use every single week. I'll send them to you for free. Just drop me a DM, ask me about how I review my weeks. I'll send it over to you. It's a Notion document, so you can just fill it out every week, and it can be a really good starting point for you going forward. Now, with our quote for today is from Aristotle, a Greek philosopher. And what he said was, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit." And remember what I said in the beginning. A routine is a sequence of actions, habits. That's all that is. And as Aristotle was saying, excellence comes from what we repeatedly do. A routine is what we repeat. Okay, so it just puts so much emphasis into what you do on a daily and a weekly basis. It compounds Okay, it has huge compound effects. So make sure that what you're doing in your routine is paying off, it is aligned with where you want to end up. And I promise you, you will build a routine that you can be proud of. It's what I've done, it's what I do with my clients. And you can then take stuff from today and do that yourself going forward. Now, as I said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you can take something from today's episode, put it into your routine, and it helps you push forward with your own pursuit of constant improvement. Thank you for listening.